and he is and has been trying to hide from me, but he is part of the boiler room. And today, our guest, Justin, has told him his name sounds like a conference room. Welcome, Justin. No take backs, Justin.
I'm embarrassed by that. That's one of the coolest names ever.
You did tell me it was really cool. It is the coolest name ever.
Yeah.
South Turk. I like that name a lot. And the thing is that when you're really angry at him, that's like really great sounding name to be like South Turk.
Yeah.
Like you Justin, you really, and then you can call him Turk, you can call him South, whatever you want.
Super cool.
It's a great name. We're just kidding.
Cool.
Please don't edit this and put emojis over our heads and fuck with us when we're alive. Anyhow, Justin, thank you for joining us. You are with Flock Freight. I always mess it up whenever I want to say it, even though it is a great name.
It can be tough at times, but yes, I'm with Flock.
I didn't know about your company, and I'm very sad to say that. I didn't know much about it until one of my good friends, Cody Adler, he came, best flatbed broker. And he would say he's the best broker in the world. But he's amazing at flatbed. I'm sure he's amazing at other things too. And I've known him for over 10 years. Great guy. But he came to work for you guys, and he's been raving and raving and raving. And I was like, well, let's get somebody on this show. And so he's like, Justin, get Justin on the show. So we're very excited to have you. But I'm very excited to have you, because when I was creeping on you on social media, you have a dynamite resume. Like, you've been everywhere. Stored, GTZ, Global Trans, Coyote, now Freight Flock. You're the CRO there. Like, you've had a journey. Tell me, walk me through like your life. Just tell me everything.
Okay. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm originally from Huntsville, Alabama, and ironically, I was in the music industry before all of this, and ended up getting out of the industry, and I needed something to do. I was a starving artist, like literally starving artist, and had a couple smaller jobs and found Coyote early 2010-ish. And I worked at Coyote for about 6.5 years. And have nothing but great things to say about that place. I spent some time at Global Trans, and then helped start a company called Stored. I was one of the first members of Stored, and I've been at Flock Freight here for just about 3 years. So I've lived in from Huntsville to Atlanta to Chicago to Minneapolis to Scottsdale to San Diego. So it's been a
I love it. Where's your favorite place that you've lived?
I really love Scottsdale. Like, honestly,
yeah, me too.
Scottsdale is one of the most beautiful places. You know, I'm from the South, but I can't tolerate the heat like that. But I love Scottsdale, and then I always have this affinity for Chicago. I feel like I grew up as a professional in Chicago. I love Chicago, and of course, living in San Diego isn't that bad either. So,
yeah, San Diego's always great. It's just that, so I've never lived in San Diego. Yeah. I've lived in San Francisco, very, very, very different. Lived in Chicago when I worked for Echo. I lived in Green Bay, Wisconsin when I worked for Schneider. And that was interesting. And I've lived tons of places, but I would say Scottsdale is by far one of my favorite. And for those of you who never lived in Chicago, I'm from the East Coast. I'm from New York. And you think, like, I thought when I moved there, like, I can handle Chicago. Like, I'm East Coaster. We're used to winters. Oh, no. It's a whole nother level of cold. Long winters.
I used to be literally walking forward, like in the winter, just trying to
curling into yourself.
Yeah, trying to cut through the wind and the snow and the ice. But what a beautiful place, though. I love Chicago.
It is. And I used to be, at the time I was younger, and I was in-house counsel for Echo, and I would wear like really great, beautiful, like professional outfits and suits. Right. And I would have to wear like jeans underneath my clothing, or just have an entire different outfit that I would change into when I got to Echo, because it was so cold walking there. I was like, this is insane. So too old for that shit now. I'm like, listen, people, you're barely getting a jacket out of me these days, and I'm not wearing suits anymore. But anyhow, neither here nor there. So you're at Coyote, then you in GTZ, then Toward, now you're at Freight Flock. Which I hope you guys get drunk.
Yeah. Think about
now there's so many jokes. If it was Freight Flock,
birds flock in a direction, so does freight. It moves in a similar direction. they kind of come together. Flock freight.
Okay, flock freight, you guys, not freight flock.
Yeah.
All right, tell me everything about it. Like, what makes it different? Why does Cody love it so much? And why do I hear about it all the time? And you guys are sexy. It's my fault for not knowing too much about you guys. So I come to you humbled. But tell us, like, what do you tell people when they're like, what is flock freight?
There you go. There we go. We got it right that time. So flock. We'll just call it flock. How about that? Make it easier.
Okay.
So
yes.
At flock.
Because then I can screw up and say, well, I'll keep going.
So basically, long story short, is that we carpool freight. And what does that mean? That means that there's a lot of different types of shipment sizes throughout the country. If you're a shipper, you have a lot of different types of freight that you move from LTL to truckload, and some have partials and whatnot. But really what the reality is that a lot of the freight that you see up and down the highways, a lot of the trucks you see aren't actually full. Mm-hmm. Right? The data says about 50% of them are shipping something that's less than full, but the shipper pays full price for it. So basically what we say is, how do we fill that space? And how do shippers capture savings, recognize that they're not the only people shipping out of that market at the same time to similar markets, right? Give you a good example, right? If you're a shipper in Southern California, I'm pretty sure most of them probably ship to Chicago and Dallas, just as an example, right? And how many of them are potentially shipping to Chicago on the same days? A lot of them, mm-hmm. right? So we basically say, what if you could take algorithms and data science applications and combine those shipments together into what we call a shared truckload and route a driver that's empty in Southern California to come pick up those 2 to 3 pickups and drive straight to Chicago? It would completely negate the need to what we call consolidate freight or ship it through a terminal-based program, because you won't need warehouses if that was the case, right? You wouldn't actually need to consolidate the freight because the algorithm does a consolidation for itself. So
it's partials?
Partials is what the industry kind of calls the type of freight, I guess you could say that, but the how behind it is different. If you were to go talk to a bunch of carriers that ship partials, they probably have a few different ways they do it.
Yeah, like they don't tell anybody. They open up the truck and they throw some more shit and then they close the door. Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, the seal was never on it." Like,
yeah, you pop the door off the trailer, pop the seal, or post it on that and hope a carrier has space, or you just kind of don't know what they're doing with it, right? We don't do that. We give the customer predictability. We give them scale. We protect the freight. We call it guaranteed hubs. It's a guaranteed commitment not to do what partial carriers typically would do, right? Which would be to push it to a consolidation center, right? It's completely transload free, no touch, same experience you get from truckload, but at a fraction of the price.
Okay, so how do you do it? Give me like the workflow of like follow a truck through, and they, like you said, they don't stop at a warehouse. So
I'll give you 2. So it's a 2-sided marketplace. So I'll give you the shipper's experience. I'll give you the carrier experience. But the shipper treats us just like any other carrier. They say, I have X amount of pallets, X amount of weight, shipping on this point at this point on these days. And that's kind of how they do it. They turn us to order like they would anyone else. We have an algorithm that then would take all the different data points from all the shippers that had those similar scenarios and combines them into a truck. And then, we find a carrier that's willing to haul that freight through a digital experience. And we route the driver to go pick up those series of pickups and deliver with no touch to that freight whatsoever.
So is the freight, is it more than, I used to have an algorithm I used to have a calculation in my head, the difference between LTL and partials. So it's like, if it's more than 10,000 pounds, right. It's more on the partial side. So is that what this is? It's not LTL. They're filling like half the truck or 3/4 of the truck, and you're trying to fill the...
It's LTL. It's anything that's not full, right? So what you're talking about is something that we refer to as linear feet and cubic capacity, right? So LTL carriers have tariffs. They have rules, essentially.
Yeah, we know.
A lot of rules, right? So we love our carriers. We love our LTL carriers.
That was smooth, Justin. That was smooth. Go ahead.
We love our carriers. In that tariff, though, they're going to tell the shipper that there's a cap, right? They can only ship so much under a committed price. Anything over that is considered what we call volume LTL, which I'm sure you know. So what happens is the shipper has a set of decisions to make over that cap, right? From a least cost routing perspective, their TMS is going to say, okay, well, no, I don't have rates for this segment anymore because I have a tariff. Well, now I have to find rates elsewhere. So they'll either reach out to a volume provider, get a spot quote, or it auto tenders to the truckload routing guy. Right? Now, the truckload routing guide has a fixed rate per mile from every broker and carrier that participate in RFQ, but nothing in that routing guide has an indication of how much freight's in that truck. It just says, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Shipper, you can ship 2 pallets, you can ship 25 pallets. We have a full truckload rate, we're going to pick it up for you. Our system is more dynamic than that, right? Our system says, hey, we can do that too, but we also want to put that money back into your supply chain if it's not actually full. So if you ship 16 pallets with us, you get a significant, just as an example, you get a significantly reduced price versus what you pay for the full truck outright, right? So it's a dynamic pricing program that we've implemented with shippers all over this country to make sure that they're optimizing for their truck, optimizing for how much space they're actually going to use in that truck, making sure they're never paying full price for something that's not full.
What's the disclaimer you give to shippers? Like, hey, you're not allowed to put a seal on the truck. This isn't truckload. Like, don't get comfortable. Like, when they show up, like, don't touch other people's shit. Like, the driver needs to be loading it. Like, what are the rules?
So
because you're right in between, like, you're playing, you're not, we're not truckload. Don't treat us like truckload. Hey, we're not LTL. Don't treat us like LTL.
No, it's right in the middle. It is a hybrid model.
I mean, it's cool, right? This is an opportunity. This is great. But go ahead.
So we go to our customers and we create custom rules for them. We say, hey, you tell us how you want it to work, right? Because if you were shipping LTL, you know that your freight would be co-mingling with other people's freight. So give us the permission to operate like an LTL provider under the understanding that there's actually less risk the way we ship, because we don't have a lot of different shippers on one truck. We probably have 1 or 2, maybe 3 at most, right? So we typically have a seal. We'll reapply the seal.
Why is that less risk?
Sorry?
This is just more. Why is that less risk?
Because there's less shippers involved, less touches. There's less transloading, right? There's no. You skip all the nuances of I've got to load a lot of different people's stuff in this trailer, got to go to a lot of different terminals and put forklifts on, you know the process, right? So we reduce all of that because, to your point earlier, right, it's like this truckload type experience that we can give the shipper for everything that's not actually truckload. So it's a blend of LTL and truckload without any terminals. Okay,
so what other things you tell the shippers? Or do they come to you, they tell you how they can operate, and then you've kind of got to guide the carrier? Is that how you work?
Yeah, so what are the things we tell shippers? So there's 3 things we typically double down on. One is cost optimization, which we talked about a little bit. If it's full, let it be full, perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. If it's not full, it's not full, right? So pay for what you use. The second is we really want to increase driver pay. We think that there's a driver shortage challenge that everyone's been discussing for years, but we also believe that there's a lot of shipments that are trailers that are underutilized. So we say that what if we could actually fill that space? You probably would need less trucks, right? In theory, right? If half the trucks on the road today were actually shipping something that wasn't full, you actually could consolidate the need to have that many trucks if you could just fully optimize that space. And if we fully optimize that space, we'll pay drivers more. Right, so we go to our customers and say, you're participating in a platform that's going to enable a better experience for even carriers out there.
Yeah, definitely you're paying carriers more, right? Because you guys don't have any drivers, do you?
I have drivers.
They're all carriers.
We pay carriers more, right? The third thing is sustainability. So Flock is one of the only B Corps in transportation. So it's kind of weird. Like I go to these conferences, these sustainability conferences, and the people are kind of like, why is the trucking guy here? Like, you're part of the problem. We're like, no, we're trying to solve it. We're trying to solve it, right? So we reduce greenhouse gas every time that we skip terminals and mitigate the amount of trucks that touch freight every day. So we are a significant conduit, to a shipper sustainability program. So those are the big 3 things, right? Price optimization. We want to pay carriers better. We want to fill trucks to capacity. And we want to create a greener environment for all of us and hopefully our children.
I like it. This is cool. Tell me about the carrier experience.
Carrier experience is
Wait. I have a question.
Okay.
Before we get into the carrier experience. since you are dabbling between like the LTL partial truckload, whatever the fuck you want to call it, the rest of us call it LTL partials and trucking. Okay. So since you're like playing in the middle and there's a lot of gray, can you play the tariff? Can you say, because the LTL tariff world is beneficial to providers because there's rules and it's governed and it's easier. Like everyone says, LTL is just easy for that reason. Can you do that too? Or do your customers more expect the truckload experience when it comes to rates and pricing?
Yeah, they expect more of a truckload experience because we don't have a super complex tariff or a rate agreement just because we live outside the class system. So we don't, when you live outside the class system, we don't have some of the rules that govern our experience. So it really truly is like giving the shipper a truckload experience for everything that's not truckload. Right. So, I know you from the legal perspective, we have master service agreements and we agree to rates and we have all the red tape that everyone else does to operate in this space. But it caps at that. It doesn't go deeper into like an LTO kind of tariff experience.
Okay. I was just curious because if you were able to do that, that'd be even cooler. But maybe you're just, once you guys get to like, you're already big, but once you get to ginormous, maybe you guys could do that when you dominate that kind of middle ground. You could play the rules because truckload's a little wild. So, okay, go ahead. Tell me about I'm very curious about the carrier experience because it's like herding fucking cats. Let's hear this.
You said it, not me. I didn't say that. No take backs, right? I didn't say that. You said that.
No take backs. No take backs on Matt Gaines.
Yeah,
I'm so mad.
So,
boiler room boys better hear me right now.
Carrier experience is cool. Sorry. Carrier experience is a data-driven experience. We want our carriers to tell us when they have space and when they're empty and where they're going to be. Simple as that. We ship for truckloads. We'd be just like anyone else. Where you're empty, what day, and we're going to match you to the most optimal shipment for you, close proximity to where you're empty. For everything that's shared truckload related, we want to know how much space is available. Right. And we have a program today where we want to fill that empty space with the trailer so they can make more money. The second way is, I said the third way, which is the primary way actually, is we want to create what we call full pulls. Right. It's our own internal jargon. Simply, we want you to be able to take our multi-pick, multi-drop freight at obviously high service levels and at a fair market price for that effort. The industry typically thinks of multi-stops as kind of like this really difficult kind of nuanced thing. And we don't. We think that done the right way, right, with significantly reduced dwell time, with optimal routing, right, with great scheduling and great pay, that we believe that we can take something that typically has a negative connotation and turn it into something that's positive, right? So we don't pay those drivers a $50 stop-off charge or something like that. We pay them a fair market price for their efforts for picking up multiple of our customers' freight and delivering it on time at high quality. So the carrier experience is a digital one. Carriers go to our website and receive notifications when loads are matching their load lane preferences, and it is an automated experience for the carrier.
So what's your carrier pool? Is it more mid-size to large, or is it all, or is it smaller?
I would say it's all, but it's significantly more focused on the smaller to mid-sized carrier. We love owner-ops. We love small fleets just because of their reliance many times on brokers to navigate and move around this country efficiently. So that's really more of our target audience today. But we do work with some large fleets too. So, I don't want to alienate that demographic, but we certainly have a higher core competency.
Because I was thinking maybe you don't work with the smaller carriers because how do you know how much room they have? Where are they picking up? Like, how do you know all these details? Or they just have to get into your community and you ask them and because they're running a lot of loads for you, what they're is that like where do you start with that? Like herding cats is all I can think about.
It's tough to get that data, but it is a community that we've built. Carriers want to participate in the program because they enjoy make
more money, man. I would too.
Yeah, they make more money, so they're super open to sharing that data with us. Now, we believe long term that we're going to connect probably via API to national fleets, where a large national fleet probably has better visibility just based on having better software capabilities. We'll be able to plug in via API to a national carrier and they say, hey, we're moving we have a committed agreement with the shipper, and we're moving on these lanes on these days, and a large portion of the time we're not actually full. We're still understanding how to capture that data today at scale with the national fleets. But on the smaller side, it's definitely a community that we built of just sharing data with us at the point of sale.
Okay. And then, well, wait a minute. I had a really good question for you that everyone's going to ask. Damn it. I was thinking about that part. All I can think about is partial. So I'm sorry to use that word. I can tell you already you don't like that word. I'm sure that everybody there is going to be like, why does she keep saying that? But I'm like old. That's why I keep saying that word. So I'm trying to imagine I got a good question for you. What if I have private fleets? But I have private fleets. Like I'm some kind of big furniture maker. I have private fleets. I am authorized for hire, by the way.
Yeah.
Is that like a good market that you guys are targeting and tapping into? Because I'm sure they have a lot of obviously the backhauls. Everybody's targeting the backhauls, but I bet they have that extra space in that I think they would be probably interested in filling.
So it's on the roadmap today. We don't work with any private fleet today, but we certainly believe that there's capability to do so. Private fleets obviously always have great data and visibility because they do. Salary drivers, and they own the equipment, and they have predictability over their internal networks. That'd be a great for us over time.
That'd be great. And for those of you who aren't, we call them private fleets, but technically if they're licensed for hire, they're technically not private fleets, but we use that term because often it's the manufacturers, the shippers who have that dedicated fleet. So anybody's confused, like, why are you going private? And then you're talking about for selling. I just want to make sure people are like not confused with that. Okay, I have 2 minutes. This is the most interesting thing I think I've heard all week. So I'm really intrigued by this. One more thing, because I'm a lawyer and it's okay if you don't know the answer. But what do you do about cargo claims? So when there's a cargo claim, because it doesn't matter how great you are as a company, you'll always have cargo claims. More freight equals more problems. Just the name of the game. So it doesn't say anything about your company, right?
Yeah.
But when you do have, God forbid, that cargo claim, or it's lost product or damaged product that happens, do they take like more of a truckload approach, and they want like, hey, there's $100,000 on that entire truck. Like I want availability to all of it. And you're like, no, there are 3 other shippers with their shit on that truck. You don't get the availability for all of it. Like, how do you handle it? Is it more truckload or is it more LTL? Or you have to split
certainly more truckload, 99.9% a truckload claims experience.
Okay.
I would love to tell you as CRO that I spent most of my time talking to shippers all the time, but unfortunately we do spend time talking about problems.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's the name of the game. That's also why people hire you.
Yeah.
Is because they want you to deal with the problems. Yeah. They don't want to deal with the problems.
It is. So we have we have a $250,000 cargo liability policy. We support a lot of high risk, high value commodities today. Given that we're moving our product with over-road carriers, those carriers typically come with a $100,000 liability. I'm sure I know you know all this stuff. And we work with the client to make sure that we have the right amount of coverage to support them at scale. Things go wrong all the time. I'm just saying things go wrong all the time. Things go wrong, it's freight. When things do go wrong, we would just file the claim to the carrier, just like anyone else would do. And allow it to resolve itself or step in if necessary. But the customer agreed to ship with us, not with the underlying carrier themselves. So, it's our responsibility to solve that problem.
Okay. So for those of you out there who are like curious why I keep asking, is because like Justin said, is these carriers have $100,000 in insurance, right? And if you hire a carrier for full truckload shipment, you expect $100,000 to cover your product because you're the only shipper in full truckload. Here, they are changing the game a bit. You've got a couple other shippers who are going to say the same thing. We got $100,000. So what happens if there's an accident or they roll and all the product's damaged? You've got 3 shippers coming to you. Each shipper thinks there's $100,000. So maybe like, I'm not speaking for Flock Freight, and fuck yeah, I got it right. And just like to say that it's a good name. I see the Flock now. I like it.
You're part of the Flock family. That's tough to say too. Part of the Flock family.
I like that Flock family, because when you all get drunk, it turns into a whole nother word, which is one of my favorite words to say all the time. So that's why the name's great. But I'm like imagining, okay, how would I handle this? So what I would imagine is that I would have disclaimers to all my shippers and say, if you are shipping, you've got 40,000 pounds. I would say, how many pounds are you shipping? And then I would tell them that they have a per pound limitation to keep, because they each don't get $100,000.
Here's the thing, though.
3 shippers on there.
Here's the thing, though. We ship smaller things, though, right? So an average weight for us is probably called 8,000 pounds or 10, right? So it would be 3 shippers probably collectively with 30,000 pounds. It's actually a really big pro for carriers. Why they like to haul with us, because our freight's
right. It's lighter.
Freight's lighter, so it's easier on their
less liability.
Yeah. So
you're not hauling heavy stuff, is what you're saying.
Nope. If it's over, call it 40,000 pounds, that's a truckload. I don't care if it's 2 pallets. That's a heavy load.
Right, but what if you have 3 shippers that equated to 40,000 pounds, right? So $100,000, let's do 40,000 pounds, right? That is $2.50 a pound. Mm-hmm. So what you need to make sure is that the valuation is never higher than $2.50 a pound if you've got more than 1 shipper on your truckload. That will keep you safe. That is how I would approach that. That is so interesting. I love this. I nerded out for you for a moment. I apologize. I wanted to talk more about you because I creeped on you on social media and you have a really cool resume. But then I got freight. Like we're freight nerds, Justin. We are freight nerds.
Freight is a lot cooler than Justin Turner, so I have no problem talking about flock freight.
Oh, I don't believe that for a hot minute, but that warmed all of your flocking friends. Like, we can just keep going on with this flocking business. Like, do you guys call each other like flockers?
Yes.
Like we're flockers.
Yes. Yes. It's so funny. Like our training program is called Flock U, which is short for Flock University.
Stop it! I love you guys. This is why Cody told me to pay attention. Cody has been on me about your company. This is why, Cody, you got it, man. You got it. Thank you for joining us, Justin. You are amazing. I cannot wait. I want to have you on again. Sure. So anytime you guys are doing something new, tell me. I want to bring you on again. We can just nerd it the fuck out and we'll have a good time because you guys are doing cool stuff. I love companies that do cool stuff. For those of you who want to reach out to Justin, he is on LinkedIn. You want to reach out to Cody because you want a good broker because Cody's badass. You can reach out to him. He's on LinkedIn too, you guys. We'll see you next Friday. And thank you for joining us. And don't drink too much beer this weekend, y'all. Have a good time.
Thanks, Cassandra.
Whatever your shipment, no matter the mode of transport, the real-time location and condition of your shipment matters. With Tithe, you simply activate the tracker with the push of a button and secure it on a shipment at the box, pallet, or container level. That's it. Now, your team can see and create shipments on the Tithe platform, and Tithe's hyper-accurate sensors start streaming data and alerts to your team in real time. Tithe, because every shipment matters.